Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Jared Velbeer, host of the Velbeer podcast show, whatever you want to call it. I'm just here talking to brewery founders, experts in the field of anything craft beer, home brewing, whatever it is. And today I have Dino Funari, founder of Vitamin Sea Brewing out of Weymouth, Massachusetts. Yeah, I've got kind of an East Coast thing here, but I was able to try some of the beer from Vitamin Sea over the weekend. It was fantastic, and I'm excited to chat with Dino. We're going to cover some great things, Dino's story, kind of some of the hurdles that he had to go through opening Vitamin Sea, and then we're going to get into beer. You know, what kind of beer does he love, his philosophy behind it, what beer is he drinking, especially, if it's his last night here or just some favorites. So hope you enjoy the show. Here it goes.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go! Hey, 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 fill it up, fill it up, hey, 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 fill it up, fill it up, hey, 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 fill it up, hey, hey, hey.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Jared Velbeer, host of the Velbeer Show. With me today, I got Dino from Vitamin Sea Brewing. Dino, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Jared. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, and we were just chatting beforehand. Dino is the second Patriots fan now that I've had on the show. 2 whole episodes in and 2 for 2 on Pats fans. So,
Yeah.
I don't know where that
We're
sits.
everywhere.
Yeah, I had a brief first time I ever retired was after 2 weeks in New England. So, I have a very short history with the Patriots, funny enough. But yeah, man, so Vitamin Sea Brewing, I was able to try your beers. They were really tasty. And let's hop right into this. I got some questions for you after, trying those tasty suds, and I think they fit
awesome.
right. Yeah. So opening your brewery, I saw you guys officially opened in 2019. Is that correct?
Yeah, we opened February of 2019 after a long journey.
Yeah. So what was like, outside of COVID, because COVID threw a wrench in probably everybody's plans, but what was kind of the biggest challenge that you weren't anticipating starting up?
Boy, so I guess if we go way back to when we were home brewing and finally made the decision to go pro, if you will, the biggest thing was finding a building to be able to house what we wanted to do, and then that coupled with finding the money to be able to do what we wanted to do. Those are the 2 biggest challenges I think that we had. We kind of had a general idea of where we wanted to be in the town that we started homebrewing, which is the town I live in. It's a small little beach community up here in Massachusetts, Hull, Mass, which fast forward, and we'll get to that later, but we actually are in the process of doing something there right now, which is kind of fun, a little pop-up. But so, we started to look, and it was like, all right, we're going to go and start with a 5-barrel system. And then as we kind of went along, we're like, well, geez, this 5-barrel system is going to be probably too small for us, and we're probably going to outgrow it real fast. So the place that we thought we were able to settle on in that town ended up becoming too small all of a sudden. So we happily now backed away and just said, you know what, let's kind of rethink this thing and see where we want to go. And in talking to other breweries, other friends that we had in the industry, they just said, geez, you don't go with anything smaller than a 10-barrel system because you're never going to catch up, type of thing. So that unfortunately kind of eliminated a lot of the properties that could have been potential opportunities in the town we're in. So we had to expand our search. We ended up a couple of towns over, about a 10, 12-minute ride from where we started in Weymouth, where we are now. And which again, okay, so now we kind of pinpointed a town. Now we need to find a building again. And we had like the first 2 or 3 spots that we wanted to go to kind of fell through. People either didn't want us, or it just wasn't a good fit. Parking, which is always an issue. So we were going back and forth with the realtor we had been dealing with, our agent, and he just said, hey, I have a new listing that just came up, and someone just purchased the property, and would you like to take a look at it? And we said, yeah, absolutely. And oddly enough, there was another brewery a couple of doors down from us, so the town was accepting of breweries, which a lot of times they're not. It's kind of that fear of the unknown. But so we came, we saw the building, and it was actually 2 buildings, almost like a little campus. And I immediately saw the roll-up doors in the front, and I'm like, oh, this is it. I can tell, I could visualize those being open in the summertime and having the Adirondack chairs out front, people just sitting there chilling at the tap room, having a good time. And I before I even looked in the building, I knew that this was kind of going to be home for us. So we settled on that, and that was great. And unfortunately, another unfortunate is that we had created a business plan and asked for financing, based on projections that we had done like 3 buildings prior. So the money that, the bank had kind of agreed to say, all right, yeah, we're going to give you guys this to get started. Well, our construction costs ended up becoming a lot higher than what we had anticipated because of it. It was like, you're asking for costs on an apple and you're trying to build an orange. So we had to really like scrape and lift the cushions up and find whatever coins we could find after that to make it happen. And we did. And it's funny because the things that you worry about pre-opening are completely different than what you worry about once you are open. It's like you're in a completely different mindset. Once you're off, you hit the ground running.
I bet. So like as a ballpark, if somebody has this pie in the sky idea, start a brewery, what would your advice be to them as far as, you have your budget, but realistically, what would you say? Would you say kind of double that or, even triple? Like what advice would you give from that standpoint? Because I've heard it, before with the same thing that you've kind of said, it's projections once the ball got rolling, didn't quite meet what, the actuality of the project.
So I think a couple of things that are important to figure out is A, are you going to self-fund it? B, are you going to go the bank route, which we did, or are you going to go the investor route? We elected to not go the investor route because we didn't want to be beholden to anyone else. There were 4 of us at the time, and we figured we didn't want any more partners after that. We couldn't self-fund it ourselves. We did the best we could. We had to, put our houses up and really, make some sacrifices. But we found that the bank route was the way to go. So we wanted to make sure that we partnered with a good bank, a bank that understood our business. We had an interview, if you will, with one bank that worked with breweries, but they weren't a big, they didn't really want to do business with startups, right? Too risky for them. They were more of like, okay, you're an established brewery now. You're going to the next phase where you're looking for an expansion or a second location, things like that. But it was a good experience for us because we kind of pitched our business plan and they heard us out, and it was a good practice, I guess. And at the end of it, they're like, well, yeah, this is great, but we're not a good fit for you. And so we were just crushed at that point. But then it was like, we have a friendly competitor that we work alongside, that we deal with in a lot of trade shows and things like that. And they are more geared towards startups and smaller breweries just getting started. So they put us in touch with them, and we had like a 20-minute call, and they were like, yeah, we love what we're hearing. Like, let's do this. So that was great. As far as, and that brings me to my point, is working with a good bank, and like an instance that we did as a good partner, they kind of told us like, all right, figure this, like you've got a pie, and each slice of that pie is a certain aspect of that business that you need to account funding for. Like, we didn't think of like having a contingency, and they were like, no, make sure you have a contingency. Make sure that you've got enough money in there to kind of float you for a year, because you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, we took possession of our building, and we got a couple of months free rent, but we were paying. I mean, we were bleeding for a while because we weren't generating near enough revenue. We were brewing on our small pilot system, which we used to use to homebrew, and we were putting out, a handful of kegs a week. But
how big was that system? How big was
we
that system?
Started with so we were using a 1-barrel system. We started doing 5-gallon batches way back when, but we went from the homebrew scale to deciding to go pro. We had a 1-barrel electric system that we actually have since then bought extenders for to turn it into a 2-barrel system. And that's a great system. And we still use it today, to be honest with you, for pilot batches alongside our 10-barrel brew house that we have. But we, so there were things that the bank knew that we didn't know. So it wasn't like it was an adversarial thing, or like like they're really trying to get you to, they're not trying to screw you, they're trying to put you in the right position to succeed. So that worked well for us. Obviously the construction thing, they had no control over, and neither did we. So we made it work. But I would say, just to give you our example, I think our construction costs came back like 2.5 times what we had originally figured. And there's no way to really prepare for that, right? I guess what you want to do is you want to have a good architect and a good law firm to work with, because they can certainly help you in a lot of ways. You want to make sure that you're dealing with a town that really wants a brewery. And what we did is we sat down, we brought our architect into the building department of our town and just said, hey, tell us how you want us to build this out. Tell us what we need. We don't want to go to you and then have to make all these changes to to limit the amount of costs that we would incur by having to change everything, you tell us what to do. And we did that, and we came back to them with our drawings, and it was built out the way that they wanted us to do it. So, things like that can help to eliminate the need or minimize the need for additional funding, additional costs that could come up. But, prepare for things like that. Prepare for a year. Build outs they take time. I mean, even longer if it was a ground up. I mean, we have friends that are opening breweries now, and they're running into the same situation. Here they're had possession of their space for a year, and they're still not done. And, there's no income coming in. So.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. Back to the architecture and the design. I actually was watching a video inside your tap room, and your tap room is a really cool setup. The logo that you guys have behind the bar is really neat. I mean, massive, oversized logo, draws the eye. It looked really nice. So props to that.
Thank you.
It looks like a great space to have a beer. Got to make it out there. And try some of your beer. And like you were saying before you came on, maybe we can get a beer in the works. So
that'd be great. Yeah. We'll put you to work. We'll put you to work.
Perfect. If I have to shovel out a mash tun, I'm fine with that. To get my workout in before we sample some of the beers on tap. But getting into the beer itself, the fun stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of marrying that whole, starting out. I can tell from your portfolio, you're a pretty hop centered guy. Like you like hoppy beers.
Sure.
And those aren't necessarily cheap beers to start making right off the get-go. And, did you always, what was your mindset, I guess, going into that? Was it, I don't want to hold back. I'd rather, put the money into the ingredients of the beer to get people in here, really showcase my product. What was your mindset with that?
Yeah. So not only with product, but even with our equipment, like we always wanted to treat it as though we were going to operate like a professional commercial brewery, from processes to investing in the equipment, even at the homebrew scale. That's how you get good quality product, is you use good quality ingredients, you use good quality equipment, and you follow processes that help you control the quality of your product, fermentation temperature, minimum oxygen intake, things like that.
Yes.
So we fortunately or unfortunately, when we first started homebrewing like that, we were able to get hops at the homebrew scale, and we're like, this is great. And you create recipes with all these sexy hops, and then you go commercial, and all of a sudden you realize that you don't have access to a lot of these things unless it's on like the secondary market. So your costs are a lot higher than they can be. But I think we kind of stuck to our guns and said, well, this is what we like to drink, this is what we like to make, and this is what people want. So we did that. We just we still kept making the same types of beer that we wanted to make. And even though it was costing us more for ingredients, we knew that at some point that switch would flip, and we'd be able to start contracting hops and things like that and buying better. So, and we did. And I think we kind of proved ourselves in a way, because, different hop farms and suppliers would come to us, down the road and say, all right, hey, we've got a new product. We want you guys to try it. You tell us, because you know how to use it. So,
so that's awesome.
So really, it worked well.
There's some good reciprocity that way, which is awesome.
Yep.
So what's your favorite hop? What's your go-to hop if you had to brew? If you just were brewing, a single hop beer, what are you brewing with in that beer?
That's an easy one. Citra.
And anyone who's going to be listening right now who doesn't necessarily, if they haven't brewed with Citra or had, a 100% Citra beer, what are those qualities of Citra that make it, so tasty?
It just bursts with orange and grapefruit, and it's just such a great hop that on its own, it can really, really pop, and then it pairs so well with so many other hop varieties. Like we use that as the backbone for so many of our recipes, just because it plays well with so many different beers. And we actually have quite a few beers that have Citra just as a single hop too, different grades, whether it's a session or a single, a double IPA, whatever it is, but it's one that we enjoy, and we're able to get our hands on some good stuff. So I think it really comes through in the finished product.
No doubt. Citra is awesome, especially, when you're, making the kind of IPAs and hop forward beers that you guys are making out there at Vitamin Sea. A lot of them, at least the ones that you sent over, were, New England style Hazys. And so, Citra just works so well with that kind of yeast. What kind of yeast do you like using in house? Do you guys switch it up, or do you try to just stick to a house yeast?
We have house yeast, but we do, from time to time, we'll try some different things. We're always trying to be innovative and see what's out there. So we've worked with some different yeast wranglers, and that's worked well. We're always trying new things.
Yeah.
We work with White Labs a lot. We use a London Ale 3 derivative, and then like I said, we work with some other smaller yeast companies too to do some specialty stuff. So
and to kind of piggyback
more
off
to come on those.
Yeah, and piggyback on off of that, what makes Citra such a great hop? In your opinion, what does that yeast bring to the table in your beers, giving it kind of that signature haze and playing with the hops nicely? What does it bring out in the beer?
I feel like it just magnifies what the hops, the personality of the hops, if you will, plays well with our water profile that we have here up here in New England, which is a pretty soft water profile as it is. It just kind of all blends together and really makes a nice solid product.
Awesome. And where do you, I agree wholeheartedly with that. Before segueing, when I'm making my beer in my basement, I'm usually using some kind of, that London 3 derivative strain, like you were just talking about. I actually just tapped a beer yesterday with the Lupo Max Citra is a product out of Yakima Valley hops. Got some of that, and I haven't tasted it yet on tap, but the aromatics are pretty crazy on it. So I'm excited for that one.
I was going to say we've had a couple of pretty awesome, expensive mistakes where Lupo Max hops have been put in a batch at the normal dry hopping rate. Yeah, so they've been expensive, but the end result's been awesome.
Yeah, and for anybody listening, this Lupo Max Citra is basically just like a more potent Citra. Like you're getting more of those alpha acids that are making that beer bitter, but at the same time you're getting even more of those aromatics that make Citra such a good hop. How is hoppy beer in general? I like to ask the question, where's craft beer going to be in 10 years? But since you're a hop guy, where do you think hoppy beer is going? And where do you expect these hop forward beers to be within the next decade?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I already said that, the hazy beers are going to be a trend. New England IPA was a trend, but I don't see it going anywhere. I don't see it leaving. You're starting to see breweries go back to making West Coast IPAs, and I don't know. I might be jaded or whatever, but I think a lot of people, you always hear people say, "Oh, I don't like IPAs," and
Yes.
It's like, why? Because they don't like the bitterness of a West Coast IPA, right? But I think from our perspective, where our beers aren't overly bitter, we tend to keep our IBUs in the 20 to 30 range. They almost have, I don't want to say a sweetness, but just, I guess it's a little bit less of a bitterness. And then, we've toured around with trying to clear them a little bit, but still have the other characteristics of a New England IPA, just to see hey, can we do this and have it be a brighter beer, but still have the juiciness and that, non-bitter aspect to it.
Yeah, I don't think the New England style is going anywhere because it tastes really good, and it's super crushable too. Because if you have a few West Coast IPAs, palate fatigue sets in real quick, and the hazies, they're dangerous in the fact that you can have a 6 to even a 10% beer like the triple IPAs that you guys are making, and have it hide any of that alcohol with just these great fruit forward and tropical flavors, and it just tastes good. And I think at the end of the day, people are gonna drink what tastes good, and
absolutely,
I agree with you. I think it's here to stay. It's really funny, especially spending time in the Bay Area. I played 4 years for the Raiders, kind of where I fell in love with craft beer, and so the West Coast still has it has a place in my heart. Don't brew them nearly as often, but if I tune into any of the Brewing Network stuff, those guys are always dogging so much on the hazy beers until they have a brewer on that makes a hazy beer, gives them a hazy beer. They're like, "Oh, this is a good hazy beer." It's just so funny. It's almost like that East Coast, West Coast,
big rivalry.
Duking it out for who's got the best beer.
Yeah.
But I think in a blind taste test, I think the New England's win out. So one of the things that I've kind of noticed, some of these breweries and people making beer, the hazy New Englands, sometimes it's hard to keep them fresher opposed to those West Coast, bitterness charged, high IBU beers. How do you guys, kind of make sure that your beer can get to the consumer, taste as fresh as possible? Is it just, hey, make sure you drink it before, it passes this date? Because I saw you guys put a brew on date on the bottom of all the cans. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your process like?
We do that for quality control too, just to kind of get it. We put the date and the time really, because every once in a while you might get a can that might have some sediment in it or whatever, and if we try to get an idea of when in the process of packaging that could have happened. And the biggest thing is obviously minimizing any oxygen that comes into contact with the beer during the fermentation process. Everything's closed transfers, making sure that we've got CO2 in the beer whenever we have to do our dry hopping, things like that. We control the majority of our beer that goes out. It stays here, so we sell the lion's share of the beer from our tap room, our packaged beer. We send a very little bit out, and that's because of that reason. Like, we want to make sure that it's like, you go to the bakery to get the freshest bread, right?
No doubt.
Same idea with what we do. Like, we want to make sure that it's kept cold and it's kept in an environment where people are going to pick it up, they can go home, they can open it, and it's going to be the best representation of what we do. It's not sitting in a warehouse floor somewhere, sitting on a hot truck going from here to there and everywhere. So
yes,
I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, no doubt. It's your baby. You got to take care of your baby. Gotta
That's
make
right.
sure.
Yep.
Got to make sure you're taking good care of it. I caution anybody who goes to like a big supermarket and they're gonna get an IPA or any kind of hoppy beer off an end cap that's not refrigerated. It's just not gonna sit well. That's gonna possibly lump you into that group of people that say, hey, I don't like IPAs, because now you've had an IPA with oxidized hops and it just kind of tastes like sweet caramel with nothing else to it, and no bueno. So I'm right there.
You get somebody new that gets a can like that, and it's like, oh, their beer sucks, I'm not drinking them again.
Exactly.
And it's
so
like,
you got to take
care
of it.
First impression.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Kind of segueing a little bit, and we'll get back to the beer side and the tastiness and all that good stuff. But and it's kind of maybe a touch of a cynical question, maybe not, but I like asking it. What do you think the biggest lie is in craft beer? Some kind of common misconception that is pretty widely accepted, or maybe not widely accepted, but pushed throughout the brewing industry that you just do not agree with at all.
I guess I would have to probably talk about the beers, about IPAs just being bitter. I mean, they don't have to be bitter at all. We find that our beers are very, very approachable. We'll have people that'll come in and they'll say, oh, I don't like IPAs. What do you have? And we'll hand them one of ours and like, oh, I love this. What is this? And it's like, it's an IPA, So it's just that misconception of, I hate IPAs. I don't like them. They're, I don't like the bitterness. And that to me is a big thing. And I think the other thing is ready for repercussions, but to us, beer is fun, and there's a lot of traditionalists out there, and we respect that, and we love traditional beer, but we also like to have fun with beer, which is why we do things with crazy adjuncts and fun stuff, because it's just, why not test the limits? Why not see what's out there, and what can we do?
Yeah.
We're not going to put chicken. We're not putting chicken in a beer or anything, but
okay, good.
But, there's plenty of things that we can do that are fun, and it sparks conversation, right? That's our tap room is built in such a way. It's like a beer hall where we want people to sit and talk and enjoy themselves and have conversations. And if the beer can be part of the conversation, all the more better.
Yeah. So you threw that term adjunct out there. So for anyone listening, two parts to this. What is an adjunct in beer, and what are your favorite adjuncts to work with in your hoppy beers?
Well, hoppy would be different from. When we typically won't adjunct our hoppy beers, we will adjunct our stouts to make them more pastry or dessert inspired, and then also we do some fruited beers, and we add things like marshmallow, vanilla, different fruit from a stout standpoint. Everything from vanilla bean to cocoa nib to coconut to marshmallow again to breakfast cereal to cheesecake. You name it. We'll pretty much put it in there. Coffee, things like that. Those are all adjuncts, and I think the sky's the limit. You thumb through a cookbook or whatever and look at desserts, and it's like, oh yeah, why don't we make a molten chocolate cake inspired stout, and how do you create that? Like we have a pancake series. You do a blueberry pancake beer, that blueberries and marshmallows and maple syrup, and it's like, wow, like this, you close your eyes and it's like, that's what it is. It's like breakfast in a glass.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Things like that.
Awesome.
It's fun.
That's sweet. Yeah, that's literally sweet. Yeah. Do you ever get crazy and throw like lactose in any of your IPAs, or do you ever put legitimate fruit into your IPA? I know you get a lot of those fruity characteristics just straight up from the hops, but do you ever play around with those IPAs and really get out of the box?
Sure. Yeah. On both of those. I mean, we've done what they call milkshake IPAs with lactose, and not my favorite, but we've done them, and I think we've done a pretty good job of them. But yeah, fruit as well. Sure. Absolutely. We use a ton of fruit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, especially we're in like prime fruit season right now. At least I'm here in Michigan, so I got a garden out back, and
Okay.
and everything's coming in nice. So
Nice.
outside of Vitamin C, what are a couple of your favorite craft beers? And let's stay in the IPA category. I love talking hops. Two of your favorite hoppy beers outside of your guys' stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty lucky. We're here in New England, and we've got a ton of amazing world-class breweries that make beer that we wish we could make. So, I mean, one that comes to mind would be Substance Pale Ale from Bissell Brothers. Love that beer. We poured that beer at our wedding, and it's still, I was fortunate the last time I was up in Portland to have one, and it tasted as good as ever. And those guys are friends of ours and have helped us along the way. So we really, really enjoy that. Congress Street from Trillium, which is another brewery up the road from us, is another phenomenal beer. Every time I have it, I enjoy it more and more.
My brief stint with New England, I made it up to Trillium and had that beer, and it was fantastic. It was great. I think I even got like an extra 4-pack and drank it the night before I departed town. So no hard feelings, any Pats fans out there, but
nice.
At least got a taste of some good beer while I was out there. And I have not been able to have that Bissell Brothers beer, but it sounds pretty solid.
We'll have to get you some with the next package we send out.
Yes, that would be excellent.
So, and then Widowmaker, who's another brewery up real close to us. Yeah, they're really, really good friends of ours. They opened up a short time before us, so we're kind of kindred spirits. They have an IPA called Blue Comet, which has really become one of my favorite beers, and I've written about it a little bit. And if that's on tap somewhere, I'm getting it. There's no other way around it. So really, really good.
Yes, I'll make sure to not pass up any opportunities to try those two beers that I have not been able to try.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you're brewing your beers, when you're looking at your favorite beers and creating recipes, working with your ingredients, how do you guys go about sourcing as far as grain, hops? I know we touched on it a little bit earlier when we were talking about kind of growing the brewery up and making that step from small hop quantities to now trying to get bigger hop quantities and working with the different hop farms or hop providers or whatever you want to call them. How important have those relationships been, and do you guys have any kind of underlying philosophy on who you work with and what kind of quality is acceptable in your beer?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us the big thing is we remember the people that worked with us when we were first starting out and that gave us a chance, right? Because who are we, right? I mean, even to this day, we look at it like we're nobodies, but back then when you're first starting, I mean, people just walk right by you. They didn't even know who you were, and certain people would kind of say, hey, you know what, we're going to take a chance with you, and we've remained loyal with them, and we've grown and they've grown alongside us, and it's been a very, very good relationship. And like I said, it gets to the point now where there's new things and new innovations, and we work together hand in hand to try those out and get them to the market to give a good representation. So, we have a few suppliers that we work with that have been phenomenal. We keep our grain bills pretty simple for the most part. Base malt's typically a 2-row or a Pilsner malt, a lot of flaked oats, some wheat, things like that. We really just kind of let the hops do the talking in our beers.
Do you guys ever travel, when it's hop harvest time and, try to, hand pick hops from anywhere or, try to, get access? 'Cause I know hop, if you're looking at, Citra from one farm can vary from another farm. Do you guys, is it hard to kind of pull from where you want it, or do you guys kind of take it's a good question. I mean, we're not a very big brewery yet. I don't know if we ever will be, but from that standpoint, I mean, we're buying, the amounts that we buy, there's certainly
many other breweries that are buying a lot more, so they're getting first dibs at everything. But we've been pretty lucky to get good quality stuff. We've been able to identify, you know, kind of like, all right, this is a lot that we like, or we're not too happy about this. But we do the best that we can with what we get, and we've been pretty lucky, pretty successful with how it's interpreted in our product. So it's worked out well.
If you guys,
we haven't had a chance to go like to do selection or anything yet. Maybe next year. We'll see. Hopefully the world gets back to normal by then.
if you guys ever come out to any of the hop farms here in Michigan, let me know. Hophead Farms,
Cool.
I know, is a pretty big hop farm, and that Chinook that they grow here in Michigan has a pretty good profile on it. Made a beer that had Yes.
That copper hop too is another one that we like from those guys out there. So
yeah, they're experimenting with some new stuff too. But that Chinook, man, it's got some really nice pineapple. You know, when it's dry hopped, kind of different from that West Coast Chinook, where you get a lot more. You don't get as much pine out of the Michigan Chinook.
Yeah.
You know, kind of moving forward to the last question. It's a big one. It's your last night on Earth. You're drinking one beer. You can have as many of them as you want. You know, it's the end of times, but you can only choose one. What's it going to be?
Probably Allagash White.
Solid beer right there.
It's an awesome beer. Just perfect. It's not. You just take a sip of it. You don't have to say anything else about it. It's just so perfect. It goes with everything. Just it's an awesome beer.
It is. I actually tried my hand at doing a clone of it in the spring, and my wife, she's a huge hophead. It's pretty much whatever is on tap that's hoppy is what she's drinking. And I brewed that Allagash White clone because it's my sister-in-law's favorite beer. So I've been putting it off, and finally did it and brewed it up. And my wife loved it. Couldn't get enough of it. You know, it's been requested to get brewed again. So, you know, I'm not trying to say that it's anywhere near, you know, as good as Allagash's, recipe.
But you made it. So
yeah,
you made it. So that's
it. So yes. Awesome.
That's great.
Well, Dino, man, I appreciate you coming on and, you know, sharing your experience with Vitamin Sea Brewing and, you know, starting up and, you know, kind of sharing your philosophy and, you know, the love and the craft that you put into your beers.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And like I said, we'd love to do it again, and we'd certainly love to have you come out here and have some fun with us. So it'd be great.
That would be awesome. I'd love for that.